Hey, I'm Natalie Spano, class of 2026. Welcome to the Rambler Podcast.
And I'm Davin Friedman, class of 2026. Before you dive into this episode, we wanted to share a quick message with you.
At Cathedral Prep, every opportunity we have in the classroom, on the field, and beyond is made stronger by the Fund for Excellence.
This fund supports tuition assistance, academic programs, athletics, and faith formation. Everything that makes prep.
When you give, you help students like us thrive.
Please make your impact today by visiting www.cathedralprep.com/give.
Thank you for believing in us.
Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith and welcome to episode number 93 of the Rambler Podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. And on this episode of the podcast, we're excited to have Attorney Maria Goellner on as a guest. Maria is a proud 2003 graduate of Villa Maria Academy, and she currently serves as the Senior Director of State Policy for FAMM, a national organization dedicated to promoting fair and effective criminal justice policies. In this role, she works with policymakers, families, the media, and communities across the United States to advance reforms that protect rights and promote equal justice. Maria's journey has taken her from Erie to some of the country's most challenging legal landscapes. She served as the sole attorney for the Erie Division of the Federal Defender's Office for the Western District of Pennsylvania, represented clients as a trial lawyer on Florida's Gulf Coast, and clerked with the Legal Aid Society in Queens, New York. Her advocacy has been recognized by the Pennsylvania Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers for its exceptional impact, and her leadership extends to serving on the Third Circuit Lawyers Advisory Committee and the board of the Erie County Bar Association. Beyond the courtroom and policy meetings, Maria is passionate about supporting participatory defense hubs, community-driven efforts that empower families and individuals facing the justice system. She brings a unique perspective as a second-generation American, and her work is fueled by both professional skill and personal conviction. A graduate of Fordham University and New York Law School, Maria holds bachelor's degrees in political science and international relations and a Juris Doctor. Known to her friends and colleagues as MJ, she now lives near the beach in Erie, Pennsylvania, where she continues to champion the rights and dignity of others. So all that to say, Maria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jimmy. I really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, certainly. And it's a lot of fun to have you on, and your background is very extensive. You've been all over the country, doing the work you do, and I'm sure it's brought you to meet some really interesting people and be a part of some really interesting cases.
Definitely. When I graduated from Villa and left Erie in 2003, when I was 18, I really didn't think I'd be back. I was gone for about a decade. I was in New York City for a long time, went to Florida, came back briefly and clerked here for a trial judge at the courthouse here on West 6th. And I ended up coming back, as so many people do, for family. I wanted a village to raise my children, and it has 100% been the right choice, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, as I'm looking out my window, I see the snow blowing, and there's definitely some sunny days in Florida, but I do appreciate Erie as well, and family, and all the things you just spoke of, too, so it is nice. And you live right by the beach here in Erie, so that's nice.
Definitely, and I'll tell you, I keep that in my professional bio because people all over the country say, there's beaches in Erie, Pennsylvania, and it's a good hook for me to say, yes, you have to come visit. We have gorgeous freshwater beaches. They're not busy. It's a wonderful place, and it helps me draw people here.
That's awesome. That's a great way to get people to come to the region. I think people do get surprised to hear that, and I think Erie's one of the best sunsets in the entire world because of our lake there. So it is a nice hook to get people to come visit.
Yep.
That's so fun. And in your bio we mentioned proud Villa Maria Academy alumni. And what's great about that is you were class of 2003. So tell me a little bit about kind of your experience at Villa. What made you decide to go to Villa, and how did that experience help shape who you are today?
Sure. I will say my parents, I really have to thank my mom and dad. They valued education above everything else, and they really worked very hard planning, sacrificing, saving to send my brother and sister and I to Catholic school most of our lives, including my sister to Villa ahead of me and my brother to prep ahead of me. And so they always wanted us to have a great education, and, you know, they put their money where their mouth was, and that wasn't always an easy thing. So I really, really appreciated that. They knew I would get a good education there, and I definitely did. So I really appreciate looking back the focus on academics. It's really easy for that to be overtaken by social things in school, you know, cliques, the opposite sex, you know, romantic interests, these things. And I think at Villa, what I had, it was co-ed at that point. It was still mostly girls. And I think that we really had a focus on our friendships and our academics. So I had a great time, but I also learned a lot. I think I was challenged in many ways, and I really, really appreciated that. It set me up well to go to Fordham.
Yeah, that's great. And I think as many of us do who went to prep or Villa, we often look back and just definitely count our blessings and thank our parents, you know, for being able to, you know, give us the opportunity to go to these schools. As you mentioned, you mentioned your brother, your sister also between prep and Villa. So that's really great. And when you were there, did you have any certain teachers or coaches that really helped influence your time when you were there?
I did. I want to mention 3. Mrs. Davidson, I have no idea what they're doing now, but Mrs. Davidson, who taught English, was absolutely incredible. And she was a really pivotal teacher who was so passionate about the literature that we were reading and debating it and dissecting it. And not just that, but talking about the big ideas that came from it. Her passion for learning and being unapologetic about that really, I think, set an example for me to also, to this day, be very passionate about wanting to learn and continuously grow and be excited, you know, about learning and about the world, because she got excited about those ideas. And she was tough. It wasn't an easy class. It wasn't an easy grade. A lot of writing, a lot of red pen. But the debates in that room, I know my friends and I and folks I went to school with still really remember. So that's one. The second one I want to say is Mr. Strasser, who may still be around. I haven't talked to him, but his quiet intellect and kindness and manner were really unique, you know, and are just really special and stand out and brilliant, of course. So I had him for one semester of Latin and I think Western civilization, and similarly, his passion for history just really, really allowed us to be excited about learning and about history. And then the third one, Coach Norman Davis, who coached track and field at Villa. He is a former Olympian. I believe he is still coaching in Erie. I hope he is. He had also coached my brother in track. He just... quiet dignity is what I can say about that man. Just amazing. The talent, expecting us, not loudly, but just expecting us to perform our best and bring excellence and try. And, you know, you really didn't want to disappoint him. So it was a wonderful experience, and I loved running track as well. So I would say those are the 3 that really stand out for me. Of course, there's many more than that.
Sure. When you ran track, what was your event? Like, what did you do?
Sure, I did. I was a sprinter, so I did the 100 meter. I did the relay race. I did the 4x1, and yeah, he was just wonderful. I was too short to do hurdles, and I begged him to let me do hurdles. And he finally let me, and I did pretty well, but I did bang my knees a lot too. So he was, you know, it wasn't for me in the long run, but I did well my time doing it, and he was just a wonderful, wonderful coach.
Yeah, and that's fun. You got to do hurdles, and you got to try that out.
5'3" is not really 5'2", 5'3" is not made for hurdles, but
that's pretty good though. Still to be able to get up and do that. Yeah.
I had some bounce back then. I don't know about now, but back then I could jump a little more like Tigger.
And for you to have the speed, the quickness too, to basically be able to run the 100 and other things like that. That's a lot of fun. Yeah. I didn't realize, but till after the fact. My wife, she ran track in high school. She did the 400, so she was kind of that mid. I wasn't a track person, so it wasn't until years later that I realized, there's like different types of running styles and different, you know, people who are the sprinters versus the long distance and all the field events too, and that's a whole other gambit of things that you get to do there.
Tons. People have different opinions on this. I was a sprinter, speed all the way. That's sort of been my MO throughout life in many other areas than just the field. But my brother did middle distance, and middle distance is just, to me, so horrendous because you have to run as fast as you can for a long time, right?
Yeah.
At least with long distance, you can go a little bit slower, but middle distance, you are just basically sprinting until you pass out. Whereas my events, you go all out, but it's for 10, 15 seconds.
Right. Yeah. It's more about the start and release than really anything, and then you just go for it. Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, and you get to do it's an individual sport, but still on a team. So that was really nice.
Yeah, that is the nice thing about track is you are part of a team, although you do have your individual responsibilities to upheld. And you were joking how much of your even life and career has been, sprinting, in different things you've been doing. And it was fun reading about your background as we connected, over email and whatnot. And it was great to see you've been a part of so many different things in your career, and congratulations on all the success you've had so far.
Thank you.
Your background has taken you in so many different directions, and do you maybe mind starting off this portion of the conversation? Tell us a little bit about what piqued your interest in this career field, and what kind of got you started on this journey?
Sure. So when I left Villa, I went to a Jesuit college in Manhattan called Fordham. Incredible education, rigorous debate, real love of learning, real academic environment. And I loved history, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Love to debate always, and advocate. And so, especially for sort of underserved populations and overlooked issues. And so I ended up going to law school thinking that I would do international law. I had no idea what that meant. I just thought it sounded really cool.
Sure.
and something I should do. And I ended up, by sort of chance, you have to take criminal law classes, and I ended up clerking at the Legal Aid Society in Queens, which provides indigent defense to people charged with criminal cases in Queens. And so I walked into what's called the Tombs, which is the holding cells underneath Manhattan for criminal court. And the tombs are literally large cages to hold people underneath the ground beneath criminal court. And there were lots and lots of men and boys in these cages, in these cells. And I had never witnessed anything like that, right? And so for us to talk to our clients, we had to go up to the bars and call out the person that we were there for, have them come up, try to talk to them privately about their case and their lives, and what for many of them was the worst day of their life, try to make sure that no one else was listening. And there was no dignity in that room at all. None. Absolutely none. And I'll say these are people who have not been convicted of anything. They're charged with something, but by our Constitution here in the United States are presumed innocent until proven guilty, and that has to be proven at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. So that day set the stage, and that clerkship, for me to, realize that there was a lot more work to be done there than I had ever known. I had known people who had sort of been in trouble, but the way it's done in that high population center in New York City, with these holding cells and whatnot, just sort of rips that off your eyes. So at the same time, and soon after, I had a loved one, someone important in my life, who was really struggling with drug addiction, who was in and out of jail here locally. And so the combination of those experiences around the same time, really made me realize, okay, this is a place I think I want to work. And so I just continued to do that. I just stayed in it for a long time, worked at a lot of different offices in the legal field for judges, at the state level in Florida, the local level here in Pennsylvania, the federal system here in Pennsylvania, and now I work for a national nonprofit, not doing direct representation of people or families, but working on policy and law. So we run around to state legislatures, we work in the federal system on making sure that we have good criminal justice laws that balance safety, dignity, accountability, all of those things. while prioritizing families and making sure that we look at every case individually, because every case is different. The justice system is often an assembly line. We would like that to slow down, to really look at every person on every side of the case, right? Because anybody who works in criminal justice also knows that today's, quote, defendant is tomorrow's victim, and yesterday's victim is today's defendant. These are people, right? Everyone. So we want to look at that slowly. So that's a rather long way of telling you, but that's sort of how I got to this point.
Yeah, no, I appreciate some of that context and background, because it helps me understand kind of what led you down this path, and our listeners too, of course, to hear kind of what made you passionate about pursuing this as your career. It seems like that system can be really hard to affect change, and it's great to see you working on the policy end of things, to work with legislators. That's probably where your best bang for your buck is, right? To try to make change happen. And I can imagine when it's a system like this, those things don't happen very quickly, right? I'm sure they take a lot of time, and even trying to break in to find the place to help some of this reform or help some of these things really start to change in the right ways can be very difficult, I would assume.
It is difficult. We do make, I would say, a couple things. It's very difficult. There's also more progress than people think. One reason that the criminal justice system is so hard to change is that there are actually thousands of criminal justice systems in the country. And I think people don't realize that. So when you look at jurisdictions and sort of break down who has control over what, our local jail here in Erie is run by the county. The criminal laws are in effect through the state legislature. We have multiple law enforcement agencies just here locally enforcing local ordinances, state laws, federal laws, right? All in different ways. So just here in Erie, we have a local jail, we have a state prison in Albion, we have a federal court, we have a county court, we have, there's a lot of different jurisdictions. So if you're trying to change one of these, and that's just Erie, right? Think of every town in America. So if you want to change, quote, the criminal justice system, you really have to find, okay, what is the area, what is the thing that I'm trying to change, work backward to who has power, control, jurisdiction over that, and try to affect change there. It does happen, though. I'll share that my organization, FAMM, all capitals, FAMM, FAMM.org, just yesterday, for years, we've been supporting a bill to expand medical release in Pennsylvania. So looking at, on an individual basis, slowly and safely, are there people who are very old or sick in Pennsylvania state prisons, pose no risk, could be home with their families, reduce the burden on taxpayers, let their families take that burden of caring for them in their last days, which they want to do. And we supported a bill that passed out of the Pennsylvania House yesterday or the day before. I'm sorry, my days of the week are mixed up. But this week, HB 150 passed out of the House with bipartisan support. So there is, we'll go to the Senate next, but that's just right here in Pennsylvania. So things are happening all the time. It's just there's so much happening, and it's incremental. So you got to figure out where to spend your time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So now you got that one going in the right direction, and I'm sure now it's okay. What's the next one? We got to get going in the right direction. And you hit the nail on the head with kind of where I was going to go with my next question too. Was with the amount of work you have to do with so many different people, so many different stakeholders, how do you approach leading and influencing people when they have different priorities, they have different perspectives? And I'm asking this in the context of, your work and what you do, but also for us as listeners, to be able to learn from you and how you've been able to do the type of work you do, to work with people, to influence people, to help lead them down the path that, ultimately you would like the outcome to go. And again, even when they don't have necessarily that same perspective that you may have.
Sure, it's a great question. It's one that we think about a lot, and I think, many people in the country are thinking about right now. For me, certainly we want to get to the outcomes, as you said. We want to pass that bill. We want to get the governor to sign it. We want to see, numbers and data, but at the same time, it's really relational. So I think one of my fundamental lessons in politics occurred in an office setting many, many years ago over a small office procedural thing that we were trying to change. And every faction in the office wanted something different. And I really realized so clearly as the leader, we, me or the other people in the office may need to weigh what the ultimate answer is, right? It's not necessarily a vote by democracy, but every one of these factions wants what they want for reasons that make sense. I can understand why they feel that way, why they want that thing. And that's translatable to any area of politics. So for me, it's very relational. I care about the outcome, but I care most about sitting down and finding common ground with people. I care most about people. And so even if we can't agree on the outcome, and I often know going into meetings that there's no way that we're going to agree on the outcome in certain states or in certain districts or this, I'm still going to go have that meeting and I'm still going to talk about it and I'm still going to treat people with respect and expect that they treat me with respect. And have that approach of I will work with anyone in good faith, and if we're not building toward the outcome, we're still building toward a relationship. And that is important to me, and it also happens to work well, but that's important as a value by itself. And then often when you build those relationships and people can tell that you care legitimately, surprising things can come of that very often.
Well, and I wish more people operated that way. I mean, what you're talking about is so good in regards to how you even just described. I might go into a meeting knowing there's no way we're going to see things the same way coming out of this meeting. But if my goal is to build a relationship with this person, that's the ultimate success in regards to, would it be best if you could walk away with the same outcome? Yeah. Of course, obviously. But I think if the next best thing is you both develop a good relationship during that time, you can talk about these differences in a productive manner and go into it with open arms about where we're at and just kind of talk things through. But then you leave with a relationship with that person. You don't know that next phone call you might have to make to that person about something else that you will be in agreement with. So I think it's really crucial how you just described that, and I appreciate you sharing that perspective because that's really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's so important. And you were talking about leadership too, and it was good context in regards to, you might be looking over several different departments and see how people are coming together on things and why this person sees it differently than that one. I guess what's one example of maybe a time that if you've ever had to lead through a time of uncertainty, and that could mean you didn't know necessarily, a certain bill you guys were trying to push, how it was going to come out, or, trying to lead the office through something that you guys were working through, but there was a lot of uncertainty around it. I guess, how do you help keep yourself and your team focused on moving forward, even in a time of uncertainty among different things you might be managing? Sure.
It's a really good question. And I think I would look at the time we're in right now. I work for an organization that is nonpartisan in a time of the most heightened political polarization, at least in my lifetime. Yeah. And so that it is sort of inherently a time of deep, deep, deep uncertainty. And everybody has personal political beliefs for the most part. Most people aren't 100% politically neutral. People have some sort of belief. And so coming to work every day, especially when we need to maintain that nonpartisan nature to enable us to work in good faith with anyone, anywhere in this country, which we do on a daily basis, can be difficult for a lot of people because they feel very strongly, whatever side of the aisle, wherever they are on the political spectrum, they feel very strongly about what they believe. And I think people are feeling very attacked and as I said, alienated. So, what I try to do is support people before, specific outcomes and try to find that common ground. As if we're sitting down, in a workplace or in a lawmaker meeting, I know everybody cares about their family. I know they care about their kids. I know they care about how they're putting food on the table. So sort of putting those common ground things first in this time, reassuring people that, we have their back. I think that's one of the most important things I can do as a leader. Yeah, amen to that. I mean, there's so much good that comes out of that when your team knows that the leader has your back and that, we might not have all the answers, we might not know everything that we can do right now, but we're all moving in the same direction and you're supporting their efforts. They're on board with what we're doing as a team.
it makes it all go so much better amongst those moments of uncertainty and whatnot.
Definitely, and it's a difficult climate in a lot of fields. So it's
Right.
things are tough for a lot of people right now, and we also want to acknowledge what's going well. So just being able to do both.
And it's obvious that, as I'm listening to you, you're really, really good at working with people. It seems like that's where a lot of your strength lies in, and you add in the expertise of what you work on. It's very obvious that, you've been very strong in there. Is there, now on the other side, are there things in leadership that you've had to intentionally work on and develop over the years? And maybe it is the people skills part of it, or maybe there's something else. But are there things that, you've had to work on yourself to improve as a leader that you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
Definitely, tons of things. Always ability to learn and grow and get better. I would say there have been so many, but the one that I'm focused on, I think right now, is assessing my work for impact as opposed to just deliverables or production. So in many fields, definitely in the criminal justice system, the caseloads that I handled over the years, the number of clientele, it's systemically really unsustainable and very, very high, because this is the criminal justice system in many ways is this large assembly line. And so I have been very used to producing, delivering, working extremely hard, all of those sorts of things. I think when you move into leadership, it's really important to continually be assessing whether what you're working on a day-to-day basis is aimed at having the impact that you want to have. And I'm sure people can relate to getting lost in your inbox every day, or doing that sort of easy checkbox thing that you need to do, as opposed to shutting everything down, doing the deep work, scheduling time for deep work, thinking, writing. Those things take time. And I do find that in this day of connectivity and technology and Teams pinging and having the ability to sort of have constant input throughout your day, it reduces that ability. And so I try to check myself on that and really focus on what are the most important deliverables today, but what's the most important thing for that larger term impact? And that's tough.
Yeah. I think you're hitting the nail on the head for me again. I think I often get lost in that of sometimes the busyness of the day, and there's a million emails I need to get back to. And you know what? It's all good stuff. It's all part of what I need to do to keep my position, my office flowing, and everything else. But sometimes, to your point, you do need to just be able to schedule like an hour to just shut all that off and focus on those big impact things. So I completely hear you, and I'm taking notes for myself to be able to say I need to go back and do that better too, because I sometimes do get lost in the everydayness of what needs done and the tasks that are ahead of me.
It's hard, Jimmy.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, but I'm working on it too, and I love to read about sort of tools and how the mental aspect of it. We get distracted so easily, and it takes so long to get into that deep work flow state that I think we really have to cultivate. Anybody, whether you're in a leadership position or not, you really have to cultivate the environment to be able to give that to yourself.
And I think also, the emphasis of AI really over this past year, it's felt how much speed, productivity, and move at a good pace, and how AI tools can help you do that. I love the idea of those things, but I think on the flip side to what you're talking about, sometimes just taking all that aside and just really deep diving into something that needs done, we need to train and discipline ourselves to do that, because that's where the biggest impact, to your point, is going to come from.
100%. And I think there's a lot of literature about how as a society we're losing our attention span. And I think we can see that in our day-to-day lives, right? Checking the phone, the pinging. You're just connected everywhere you go, from your bedroom to your car these days. And it's something to be mindful of, and definitely something that I'm working on and is a daily practice.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, and to ask you about, you've been in a lot of probably really difficult conversations. You've had to make some tough decisions. When you're faced with those high pressure decision times, how how do you balance, logic over intuition, over people's input, like you were talking about the team earlier and the feedback you get? How do you go about making those high pressure decisions amongst all the noise and all the stuff happening around you, and then let alone you listening to your gut too with what might be leading you to go a certain way?
Sure, it's a really good question, and worth thinking about. It's making me sort of slow down to think about it. I would say for me personally, it's trusting that I've done the work in the day-to-day leading up to that point to really know the issues involved in that decision in and out. Because sometimes when you get those decisions, it's easy to feel a bit panicked, right? Or think, oh no, what am I going to do here?
Yeah.
But the reality is, I think for most of us who are hardworking and are doing our homework on a daily basis and showing up and being present, that work has sort of been done without you realizing it, right? So trusting that you have the information, getting the information you need, and then also, knowing, I think for most of the situations I deal with, there often is not actually a capital R right answer. So knowing that going in, there's not a right answer here. I'm going to make the best decision I can with the available information. I'm going to balance all the things that you listed, logic, intuition, input. And then very, very importantly, I don't overlook for myself, taking that time to sleep on it, right? And to put it down if I can, and then come back, with a clear head and a clear heart and just go, and then put it down, put that down. Don't agonize over it. Make your decision, keep moving. And also, if you have to change it in the future, we just course correct. That's what we do as humans.
I was listening to a podcast where he was talking about that with the art of decision making, and the kind of what the guy was saying was, at the end of the day, sometimes there is no wrong decision. Either way you look at it, there's often times that anything you think of for your situation, based on your intuition, the feedback, any decision is going to be the right decision. But then to your point, reviewing it and course correcting as you need to. And sometimes it's more the fear that we have in the act of having to make a decision that slows us down or stalls us, when at the end of the day, if you have all the information you're going to get, to your point, you sleep on it for a night, you let it come back to it, put it down, and you just move, and you just make the decision, you go, and then you accept either responsibility for it's going in the right path, or, you know what, we got to kind of course correct here and make it go in the right way.
100%. I love that. I think that's true. There's not necessarily always a right or wrong. There's the decision that you make, and then you commit to it, and you just keep it moving.
What's maybe one challenge that maybe at the time it felt like a setback, but then, as you look back, it ended up teaching you something pretty valuable?
Sure. So this is one where I want to tell you about a time when it's a professional and sort of personal setback. I had achieved what had long been my dream job, to work for the federal defenders, representing people who were charged by the United States government with crimes. And it was a wonderful role. I learned a lot. I would love to go back to it someday. It was fantastic. At the same time, I had started that job with a 1-year-old and a 4-month-old. And in the course of the time that I was there, had 2 loved ones extremely close to me, sick and dying. And I was engaged in their caretaking, and also just deeply, grieving and dealing with that as it happened. And so the confluence of those events made it that I really had to reevaluate my priorities and accept that I could not show up as the high achieving, successful career person that I was previously used to in every way, right? You can't always show up as 100% in work, in family, in this. And so I ended up making the very difficult decision after a few years to step away from that role and actually come to the role, or a similar role that I'm in now with my organization, and move into policy from being in court and sort of tethered and on call all the time. And that was, at the time, felt like a failure, and now that the years have gone by, that is one of the decisions that I'm proudest of, because I put my family and my health and their health in every way, physical, emotional, all of that first. And that was absolutely what we needed. So that was a big one for me.
Yeah, that can be really tough, especially as a high achieving person and you're pursuing a career, and then all of a sudden things are a little bit out of your control, and also in control having a family. Those things start to weigh on you mentally, emotionally, and you realize, man, I cannot do all the things I wish I could do at this current state of life. And I'm sure it did absolutely feel like a failure. But that's good, a perspective to be able to take from it and say, you know what, that was the right decision that I had to make at the time.
Definitely. And it also led, I'll say too, it also led to the beautiful thing about that, when you sort of follow that path, even when it seems hard, the path that you feel in your gut is right. What came from that was incredible opportunities that I've had at FAMM on a national level, to do things that I never could have dreamed of doing, or do in that role, right? And so there's just sort of, there's a lot out there that you can't see around the corner, but if you trust the path and you trust your gut, I now know and have had enough external proof that is the way to go. I don't need to know exactly what it's going to look like or lay it out. I know that doing the next right thing will bear that good fruit.
Right. Yeah. It's funny how, God's kind of closing that door on your life, and then he's opening this other door that at the time we can't see and we don't know what he's doing. And then to your point, you kind of look back, you're like, oh, that actually worked out for the good. Like it's a tough situation that you had to go through during those years, but it was able to be turned into something really great and a good opportunity for you, which is awesome.
Definitely. Thank you.
And it's great to hear about all the different leadership experiences you've had as we've been having this conversation. And I guess what's maybe something you've learned about leadership through your years in the different work you've done and what you've been involved in that you wish maybe more people, and specifically our listeners, would understand before stepping into leadership roles and opportunities that they could take themselves into?
Sure. I think it's, again, something I'm growing in all the time and want to continue to grow in. I would just say, it's difficult. It's much more difficult than people think, than I thought. I can only speak for myself. Much more difficult than I thought to be in a leadership role and to make tough decisions without alienating people, keeping them on the same team, on any scale. It takes emotional maturity. And so I think focusing on my own emotional maturity and trying to bring that to the workplace and leadership is very important. It's not all about your subject matter expertise. It's about emotional intelligence also, and team building and all of those things. So I think those were the things I wish I could have told myself, and that we all just continue to develop all the time, and don't beat yourself up. Everybody's human.
That's right. Yeah. Give ourselves a little grace too.
Definitely.
Yeah. We have a lot of listeners to the podcast who are young professionals. They're working their way up in their career. What's maybe a piece of advice you'd give for those people who they're ambitious, they're hardworking, they're excited about climbing the ranks at their company or in their field that they're pursuing? What's maybe one piece of advice you would give to those young professionals working their way up?
Sure. I would say, and of course this is a reflection of the journey that I've had, I don't worry so much about the exact path that you've laid out for yourself. The first, high school gets you to college or to that first job, wherever you're going. That degree or that first job gets you to the next job or the next thing. That gets you to the next thing. There's no point at which it's done. Right? This is going to go on for the rest of your life. And so the goals that I had sort of set for myself professionally, and this was very naive of me, I had sort of met those by a pretty young age. And then you look around and you think, okay, what's next, right? And you realize I have this whole life ahead of me and so many more chapters, and those dreams are going to keep evolving and growing. So don't be so wedded to, exactly what it looks like, because the wonder of what the world can be is far bigger than you think. And let that happen.
Yeah.
Let that unfold. You do your part, but you don't have to have it all figured out perfectly. And if it doesn't go exactly the way you envision, that's okay, because we're all just course correcting all the time.
Right. And that is difficult as a higher achiever to accept sometimes, because you do want to try to figure it all out, map it all out, have your goals in front of you and just go after them. And sometimes you have to realize that it's more about just doing the best you can do in the current place you're at. And then to your point, the next opportunity will open, or the next, thing that you're going to do is going to come about, and just letting yourself, I like that word wonder, the wonder of how this is all going to play out. Let yourself live in that a little bit too.
Definitely. And yeah, maybe I was dreaming too small. Maybe I don't know what it was, but you just don't know how it's going to turn out or what opportunities are available. So just, be open and don't cling so tightly, because I don't think we enjoy it as much, and we're not here that long, so we should enjoy it. And
the other side of it too is you kind of close yourself out to opportunities that you may not know were going to be in the path of the best for you to take, where if you're just kind of locked in, this is only what you're going to do and nothing else. I like, again, that idea of just exploring the wonder of what could be, where you don't know where your life is going to take you and your career is going to go. So I like that also from what you were saying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try. It's for all of us one day at a time.
That's right. Amen. Well, I have one last question for you. I call it our bonus question to the episode. It's fun. I ask all the alumni who come on as guests to the episodes to answer this question. So it's kind of a fun, consistent one I end on. But if you could go back in time and speak at your graduation from Villa and talking to your classmates, but also knowing what you know now, what maybe would be the message that you would leave with your classmates then?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would probably say one of two things, something similar to what we just talked about, which is cling less tightly, don't worry so much, it's going to be okay. There's going to be hard things, there are going to be good things, they're not going to be always the things that you thought they would.
Yeah.
But to know that there is no set path, that there is no right answer, that we just course correct at every year, at every season, and every phase, and that's what you're going to keep doing the rest of your life. There's nobody who has it all figured out. I don't personally believe there's anyone who has it all figured out, right? Being human is a messy, beautiful, painful, joyful process, and very complicated. And also just that, I look back at us and we had so much fun at that time in our lives. And there was also, I think a lot of insecurity and just, to tell those kids how beautiful they are and what a bright future they have. And like I said, to enjoy it while we're here, because really that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, again, the messiness of life and what it can be. And just because somebody's, especially social media, might look like they have it all figured out, it's not that way at all. We're all just humans, to your point. We're all just working through this the best we can, figuring it out. And that's the beauty and the wonder of it, too, is working through that. So, it's not having so much pressure on ourselves. It's allowing us to relax a little bit and realizing we'll figure it out. It's all going to come together.
100. I love that, Jimmy. 100%. Give ourselves grace, give other people grace, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I really appreciate you coming down to Prep today to record this episode of the podcast. It's been so much fun to learn about your background, the great work you're doing to fight for the dignity of others, and the different areas that you're experienced in. And then also all the different, leadership nuggets you left us with on this episode. I really appreciate it. It's been fun to learn from you and be able to hear, based on your experiences, what you've been able to do. So
thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks again, and we appreciate your time.
Awesome. Have a good one.